There's a mistake that intelligent, well-intentioned, and even strong people make, and almost no one notices. They save too many people, they help a lot, they interfere too much, and they think that's a virtue, when in fact, it's one of the most efficient ways to lose respect, energy, and power. And Machiavelli already understood something that sounds cruel, but it works. When you spare someone from the consequences, you train that person to repeat the mistake, and you also place yourself below them in the invisible hierarchy. The world doesn't function based on the kindness you feel, but on the costs people pay. And here's the counterintuitive part. The more you try to be good, the more controllable you become. Meanwhile, those who control the game do the opposite. They step back, remain silent, and let reality teach them a lesson. In this video, you'll understand why stopping saving lives isn't coldness, it's strategy, and how this simple change, used by Machiavelli centuries ago, can restore your authority, your clarity, and your energy almost immediately. If something inside you awakened while listening, don't ignore that feeling. This channel isn't about videos, it's about memories. Remember who you were before the fear, before the exhaustion, before the silence. Each new video here is a different reflection of your own soul. An invitation to understand what the world never taught you. The power you seek outside has always been within you. If you feel that this journey speaks to what lives silently within you, sign up now. Not to follow yet another creator, but to reconnect with something the world tried to make you forget. Because here, every word was made to heal, each reflection to awaken, and each video serves as a reminder. You are not alone on the path back to yourself. Click on subscribe and turn the algorithm into a daily reminder of who you really are. He observes an old pattern repeating itself, almost like an elegant social vice. Whenever someone makes a mistake, there's a rush to save them, to relieve them, to justify it. The problem is that, in doing so, he silently reverses the hierarchy. Those who save others place themselves below those who err, not out of kindness, but out of taking responsibility for damage that isn't theirs. Machiavelli already warned that decisions based on real human nature are harsh, but effective. When you absorb the impact of someone else's mistake, you signal weakness. It's like saying, without words, that the other person can fail without cost. This undermines any policy guided by reality, not by ideals. In practice, you become the emotional buffer for someone irresponsible. Shock absorbers don't control the engine, they only absorb impact. An appearance of virtue is deceiving at first, but it exacts interest later. The end justifies the means when the means is to maintain one's integrity. Those who protect too much teach too little, and those who teach little prepare the ground for abuse. He realizes that saving someone is rarely about the other person. Most of the time, it's about relieving one's own guilt. It's easier to intervene than to endure the discomfort of silence. But Machiavelli would say that the calculated use of force includes knowing when not to act. When you position yourself as a shield, you weaken your own virtue and fortune. Here's a simple example: a friend who is always late for work. You cover it up, make excuses, and take the blame. The result? Delays become the norm, not the exception. Mistakes do happen, yes, but only once. When they are repeated, they are no longer confusion, they are a choice. Self-reliant and loyal armies are only formed through individual responsibility. The same applies to personal and professional relationships. Saving today creates dependency tomorrow, and dependence never generates respect, only convenience. That's when the game starts to turn against you. He understands over time that absorbing the harm done by others lowers his standing. It doesn't matter if the intention was good. The effect is always political, never emotional. It's better to be feared than loved, when love becomes permission for abuse. Avoiding being hated doesn't mean accepting being used. The line is thin but crucial. When you pay the price for someone else's mistake, you're educating poorly. You teach that consequences are negotiable, and people test limits until they encounter real resistance. Without consequences, there is no deep learning. Without learning, there is no sustainable change. Machiavelli would call this misapplied mercy. She dissolves discipline before building loyalty, and gradually you lose influence without realizing it. The curious thing is that this sets the stage for an even more dangerous pattern. He begins to notice something that goes unnoticed by most people. Isolated errors are human. Repeated errors are strategic. When someone makes the same mistake multiple times, it's not a lack of clarity. It's intention disguised as carelessness. Machiavelli understood that decisions based on true human nature require a cool head. People test their environment like children test limits. If nothing happens, they take another step forward. The mistake ceases to be an accident and becomes a method. Here, politics guided by reality, not by ideals, prevails. Ignoring patterns is a more serious mistake than the original mistake, because the pattern reveals character, not circumstance. The end justifies the means, when the means is to see the naked truth. Those who insist on giving it another chance teach permissiveness, and permissiveness doesn't lead to correction, only repetition. This is how small abuses become normalized. He sees this clearly in the professional environment. The employee who always forgets deadlines never forgets. He calculates who absorbs the impact. If someone always covers for it, the mistake becomes cheap. Machiavelli would call this a failure in the calculated use of force. Force here is not aggression, it is a consequence. Without consequences, there is no behavioral adjustment. Organized and loyal armies do not tolerate chronic indiscipline. They correct it quickly or they back away. The same applies to friendships, relationships, and business. An appearance of virtue can make you seem understanding, but in practice, you become predictable. Excessive predictability eliminates respect. It's better to be feared than loved when love becomes a license to err. This is where the hierarchy begins to crumble. He understands that repetitive patterns always come at a hidden cost. This price is usually paid by those who tolerate too much. Energy drained, time wasted, authority eroded. Virtue and fortune do not favor the naive for long. Constant adaptability requires a cold, objective reading of behavior. Those who make a mistake once can learn from it through conversation. Those who make mistakes 5 times only learn from the impact. Advice creates noise when it's not accompanied by real cost. The policy of infinite indulgence always fails. Avoiding being hated shouldn't cost you your position, because ultimately, those who repeat mistakes are gambling. I bet you won't do anything, and every bet only continues as long as it's profitable. When profits run out, behavior changes. And that brings us directly to the next gear in this mechanism. He learns early on that behavior isn't changed with pretty speeches, change with direct impact. As long as the consequence is outsourced, the mind does not register the mistake. Advice becomes background noise, almost emotional decoration. Machiavelli knew that decisions based on real human nature ignore illusions. People only correct their course when they feel the weight of their own deviation. That's why politics guided by reality, not ideals, works. She doesn't ask, she answers. When a mistake hurts, the memory sticks. When it doesn't hurt, it repeats itself with more audacity. The end justifies the means when the means are genuine learning. Saving someone from the consequences is robbing them of the chance for change. You numb the pain that you would educate, and without pain, there is no internal adjustment. There is only automatic repetition. He observes this in family relationships with brutal clarity. A child who never loses privileges doesn't learn about limits. The friend who always gets bailed out never learns discipline. Unbounded mercy dissolves the invisible structure of respect. Machiavelli would call this a strategic failure, not goodness. The calculated use of force here means allowing reality to teach. It's not about punishing for pleasure, it's about removing excessive protection. Loyal armies are formed with direct responsibility. Each soldier is responsible for their own mistakes. There is no way to transfer costs without weakening the system. An appearance of virtue is charming in the short term, but it erodes authority in the long run. Virtue and fortune favor those who maintain consistency. Avoiding being hated cannot cost us order, because order is what keeps everything standing. He understands that true change is always internal, and the trigger for this change is almost never conversation. It's loss, discomfort, a clear boundary. When a person pays the price for their own mistake, something gets reorganized. The brain learns quickly when the cost is personal. Constant adaptability requires this type of adjustment. Overprotective parents create emotionally fragile adults. Those who step away at the right time create responsible people. It is better to be feared than loved when love hinders growth. Respect is born where there is a visible boundary. Without borders, everything becomes a silent invasion. And when you stop intervening, something curious happens. People are forced to negotiate with reality, not with you. And this shift completely changes the dynamics of power. He realizes that excessive kindness has an invisible political cost. Saving people repeatedly doesn't make you noble, it makes you predictable. And predictability is cheap currency in any power game. Machiavelli taught that the appearance of virtue can conceal strategic weakness. When you always intervene, you train the other person not to take responsibility. Politics guided by reality, not ideals, does not romanticize pointless sacrifices. She measures effects, not intentions. The end justifies the means when the means is to preserve autonomy. Those who position themselves as saviors become tools. Tools don't command, they are used. It's better to be feared than loved when love turns into submission. Avoiding being hated doesn't require erasing yourself. It demands clear limits and a real cost for those who exceed them. Without it, the hierarchy dissolves and kindness becomes a shackle. He sees this pattern in teams and relationships. The nice guy leader takes the blame for mistakes he didn't make. The team learns quickly. Making mistakes is costly. Virtue and fortune do not reward this type of leadership. Calculated use of force means removing emotional crutches. Self-made and loyal armies are disciplined and do not depend on rescue. In practice, saving too much creates infantilized adults, and infantilized adults test limits without guilt. Constant adaptability requires correction, not endless acceptance. Decisions based on genuine human nature accept this without drama. An outward appearance of virtue charms audiences, but fails behind the scenes. Those who depend on you don't respect you. He's using you. And when the usefulness ends, the bond disappears. This is a bill that few people like to pay. He understands that kindness without criteria is disguised submission. It's not generosity, it's fear of conflict. Machiavelli would say that the fear of being rejected destroys authority. The end justifies the means when the means is to preserve influence. When you stop saving, something strange happens. People start to adjust on their own. Some improve, others drift away. Both results are useful. It's better to be feared than loved when choices need to be made. Avoiding being hated doesn't mean preventing discomfort. It means acting with clarity and firmness. And this change creates a new silence around it. a silence that reorganizes positions. And this silence sets the stage for an even more powerful strategy. He discovers that silence is not the absence of action, it's a strategic action. When you stop intervening, something uncomfortable happens to the other person. He needs to deal with his own reality. Machiavelli knew that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, uses emptiness as a tool. Silence forces direct negotiation with the facts. Without emotional intermediaries, no automatic redemptions. The calculated use of force here is restraint. Not reacting impulsively preserves virtue and fortune. Those who talk too much end up explaining too much. Those who over-explain themselves lose ground. It's better to be feared than loved when words become a sign of weakness. Avoiding being hated doesn't require justifying everything. It demands consistency and firmness. He sees this happening when he consciously decides to walk away. He doesn't disappear out of anger, but as a strategy. Stop replying immediately. Stop trying to fix what you didn't cause. Decisions based on real human nature understand this effect. The other person feels the weight of their own mistake. No drama, no speech. Self-made and loyal armies survive because each one holds its own position. When someone falls, they learn to get back up. An appearance of virtue cries out for attention. Silence, no. And curiously, silence reorganizes respect. People are starting to measure their words because now there is an invisible cost. He realizes that distancing restores hierarchy, not out of explicit fear, but out of structural clarity. Those who need you all the time don't respect you. Those who have to deal with their own mess learn quickly. The end justifies the means when the means are mutual autonomy. Constant adaptability requires knowing when to withdraw. Avoiding being hated doesn't mean always being available. It's about not interfering in other people's learning process. Machiavelli would call this indirect rule. You govern by not intervening. You influence others by not reacting. And in that space created by silence, something changes. People are starting to discipline themselves or walk away. And this separation reveals who truly changes under pressure. He understands a truth that few accept without resistance. People don't change because they want to. They change because they need to. Machiavelli never romanticized voluntary transformation. For him, decisions based on real human nature stem from necessity. As long as there's an easy way out, there's no change. As long as someone cushions the impact, there is no correction. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, operates in this way. It removes shortcuts. The end justifies the means when the means are to force contact with reality. Men only reorganize when the cost of remaining the same becomes too high. Before that, everything is just an empty promise. Nice speeches don't change habits, need changes, and that's structural, not moral. He observes this in the business world with almost cruel clarity. Companies only change when cash flow gets tight. People only change when they lose something significant. Virtue and fortune align when pressure reveals character. Unbounded mercy dissolves collective discipline. Self-made and loyal armies cannot survive without clear rules. When failure doesn't hurt, failure gets repeated. Calculated use of force means allowing the impact to happen. It's not revenge, it's structure. The appearance of virtue at this point is the enemy of progress. A leader who is overprotective creates systemic weakness. A mentor who is too frugal creates dependency. It's better to be feared than loved when order is at stake. Avoiding being hated shouldn't come at the cost of discipline, because without discipline, everything falls apart. He realizes that necessity is the great silent teacher. He doesn't shout, he doesn't persuade, he doesn't negotiate, she imposes. When a mistake leads to a loss, the brain learns quickly. Constant adaptability arises from this clash with reality. Those who never feel the impact do not develop inner strength. Those who are always saved remain fragile. Machiavelli viewed this as law, not as opinion. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, accepts this discomfort. Avoiding being hated doesn't mean avoiding pain. It means not humiliating, but also not overprotecting. This balance redefines positions, and when necessity arises, something changes in the air. People are starting to move differently, and this sets the stage for an even more delicate dilemma. He learns, sometimes too late, that approval is an unstable currency. It comes easily today, it evaporates tomorrow. Respect? No. Respect is born when crossing boundaries generates real consequences. Machiavelli understood that decisions based on true human nature do not seek applause. They are seeking a position. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, separates sympathy from authority. Those who sacrifice influence to be liked weaken their own base. An appearance of virtue can quickly garner praise, but it does not support hierarchy. It's better to be feared than loved when difficult choices need to be made. Avoiding being hated doesn't mean pleasing everyone. It means not being unfair, but being firm. Those who try to please everyone always end up being disrespected, because nobody respects someone who never imposes a cost. He sees this clearly in leadership environments. A boss who seeks approval avoids unnecessary confrontations, postpone decisions, downplay mistakes, soften limits. The team notices quickly. Virtue and fortune do not accompany insecure leaders. Calculated use of force means saying no when necessary. Proper and loyal armies respect clarity, not sympathy. When making mistakes hurts, the pattern changes. When mistakes go unpunished, chaos ensues. Constant adaptability requires rapid corrections. Avoiding being hated cannot compromise the order of the system. Those who confuse empathy with permissiveness lose authority. And lost authority is difficult to regain, because collective memory holds on to those who gave too much. And test again. He understands that respect is not asked for, it is silently imposed, not with aggression, but with consistency. The end justifies the means when the means are consistent. Those who maintain clear boundaries don't need to raise their voices. People adjust on their own, or they move away. Both scenarios strengthen the structure. Machiavelli saw this as a basic principle of power. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, accepts occasional losses. Avoiding being hated is not the same as avoiding discomfort. It's about avoiding arbitrariness. When boundaries are real, the environment reorganizes itself. And something curious happens to your energy. She stops being drained by pointless conflicts. And this opens up space for a deeper kind of liberation. He realizes that rescuing people is more tiring than any other hard job. It's not physical fatigue, it's silent drainage. Every mistake that isn't yours, but that you resolve, drains vital energy. Machiavelli understood that decisions based on real human nature preserve resources. Energy is a strategic resource. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, does not waste energy. When you stop saving, something reorganizes itself internally. The mind becomes clearer. The body relaxes, the constant tension disappears. The end justifies the means when the means is to preserve personal power. Avoiding being hated doesn't require emotional sacrifice. It demands you escape a chaos that doesn't belong to you. Those who spend their time putting out other people's fires live in a state of chronic alert, and that comes at far too high a price. He notes that irrelevance in the face of others' chaos is liberating. It's not coldness, it's emotional hygiene. When you don't react, the problem returns to the owner. Calculated use of force here means economy. Virtue and fortune favor those who protect their own energy. A truly loyal armies do not pursue deserters. They move on. An appearance of virtue tries to pull you back into the drama. But constant adaptability requires focus. Those who don't solve the problem learn how to solve it. Those who are always being saved never develop emotional strength. It's better to be feared than loved when your energy is at stake. Avoiding being hated doesn't have to mean living exhausted, because exhaustion erodes clarity, and clarity is power. He understands that stopping the rescue is an act of self-control. It's not abandonment, it's repositioning. When you step away from the center of the chaos, something curious happens. People adjust their behavior, or they drift apart naturally. Both results clean the environment. Politics, guided by reality, not by ideals, accepts this cleansing. The end justifies the means when the means achieve internal balance. Avoiding being hated doesn't require carrying burdens that aren't yours. It requires acting with quiet firmness. When you become irrelevant to the chaos of others, your energy returns. You'll think better of it, make a better decision, act with greater precision. And this state creates an authority that doesn't need to be announced. Now, the inevitable question is simple and uncomfortable. How many times have you saved someone and in the end come out of the situation diminished? How many times have you absorbed the impact that wasn't yours, thinking you were being fair, when in reality you were training disorder? Machiavelli never spoke of gratuitous cruelty, he spoke of lucidity. Applying everything you've learned here starts with a practical step. Stop intervening automatically. Before helping, observe. Before explaining, be silent. Before saving, let the consequence take its course. Ask yourself, is this really my responsibility to solve? If not, back off. See what happens when reality takes over the role you've been stealing from it. Some people will change, others will complain, some will distance themselves. All of these answers are valuable information, and information is power. Now tell me, who in your life only functions because you're cushioning everything? What would change if you stopped today? If this content resonated with you, if it sparked a change in your consciousness, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here we talk about power, strategy, and human nature as it is, not as people would like it to be.